I'm already, look at Helen's like, she's gone off piece before she's done the intro. This is a record for Lauren. It's funny, Natalie just made a really good observation there about, if we'd won the lottery, would we be here having this conversation? So talking about money and talking about finance, and it's lovely when we've got a compact group like this, because I know there's people here who are self-employed, and I know there's people who are running their business. I know there's people who are employed and running departments. And if you've got to know me and Helen a little bit, although we both run our businesses now, we both have been employed, and I've gone from being self-employed, employed, back to self-employed. And I'm very conscious, and I make a very big point on most of our videos, webinars, everything, teaching workshops, to say the title you have, honestly, for me is irrelevant, because we're all in the driving seat. Who writes our P45 or who writes our P60 or where the money comes from, for me, that's a by the by. But when you're here today having this conversation around finance and money, lots of people would honestly rather talk about anything than cash. Talking about the bottom line, talking about what profit is retained, talking about tax, talking about savings, investments, talking about pain points around money. And the reason this came up in my head here, Natalie, as we were talking about the lottery, is if you won the lottery today, if we came into a big sum of money, or all of us individually, we often think that would be the problem solved, right? You go, that would be, that's the goal, that's the, I've got the big deposit of cash landed in my bank account. Where the reality is, if you ever look at the data, or if you ever look at the stories of people who come into money, whether it be inheritance, whether it be lottery wins, whether it be however, just you come into it, you haven't earned it, you haven't generated it, they often end up right back at the very same point within a certain matter of time. They often rate that their happiness increases at the start, but then goes right back, if not worse. And the reason being, and the psychology and all of the understanding behind it, is this: if you can't run yourself financially, you can't run a business. And it's exactly the same whether you're running a business that you own, or whether you are running a department or a corporation or a project, whatever it may be. If you can't run yourself, how do you run the business? And it's the idea that if we had £300, then we'd manage 300. Then add another zero if we had 3,000 or 30,000 or 300,000. And often what we do is we think the zeros on the end will solve the problem. What we're going to talk about here over the next 30, 40 minutes, and I'm just going to put myself on minimize, so I won't see anyone, so please shout me if you need me to, Helen in particular, if you need me to look up. But you'll see here on the opening slide, it's talking about money, your mindset, and your relationship with it. We've been having this conversation around finance now for about 6-8 weeks, and as we were just starting the webinar there, Sam said to myself and Helen, do you think people shy away from talking about money? And Helen said yes, and I said no. I probably said no based on the fact that we've been talking about it for the last 6-8 weeks. But as I just said there, it's something that lots of people feel uncomfortable starting the conversation with. But once you do start, being able to get that conversation rolling and working to your advantage is key. So a reminder of what we're about here at HEW, the 3 pillars: health, excellence, and wealth. I want to make sure that wealth stays at the forefront of your mind, because what we're going to be talking about in terms of managing your money and managing your money mindset, sometimes it goes straight to the scarcity. It goes straight to the managing, as in containing, keeping a lid on, restricting. And when we talk about finance as a whole, it's very easy to talk about saving and keeping hold of. And we have to keep in the forefront of our mind. The reason being is because of this word. None of us are looking to become misers. None of us are looking to become Ebenezer Scrooge. None of us are looking to just make do and get by with what we currently have. What we're looking to do is manage what we currently have so that we can get a better handle on it, so that we can create more of it, and wealth being the goal. Okay, so here's what we want to start with. I want to start with talking all about blocks, because the idea being is that if we knew what we were doing with money, or if we had a good relationship, or if we had a good mindset around money, we'd all be sorted. Like we say, lottery win in, salary in, profit in, no blocks, jobs are good in, okay? We did quite an extensive amount of research over the last few months, and we asked people to tell us what blocks they currently have around their mindset with money, their relationship with money, their handling of money, their bringing money into their life and into their business. And I'm going to pop up on screen next the list of blocks that we got. what I'd like you to do is just take 60 seconds. This is where it's lovely when we've got a compact group like this. It's not a workshop, so we're not going to put anyone on the spot. I'm not going to ask you to answer out loud just before anyone immediately logs off and goes, oh, I'm out of here, Lauren. What I want you to do is have a look at the blocks that we've found are the most common. And I'd love you to pick out 3, 5 that immediately jump out to you as your biggest blocks, okay? Pens at the ready. Okay, I've got people, I'm actually ready. Sam, you're in on this one too. The first 5 blocks that pop out, all right? So these are the ones that we get told repeatedly, maybe in slightly different language and slightly different formats. Blocks around money being running out of it, not being able to pay the tax, can't save, in and out of debt. I'm not going to read them all out. You can take a look at that screen. But just, Rich, sorry, we just lost you and got you back there for a minute. We're just going to pick the first 3 to 5 of these blocks that stand out to you as being the biggest ones for you. And pop them down on your notepad. I'm not going to ask you to read them out. I'm just asking you to pop them down. When you've picked yours, if you give me a thumbs up, we'll move ahead. I know there's a few people without camera on. You can do a emoji thumbs up via Zoom. The joy of Zoom. The very interesting one around these blocks is when we've spoke to people about it, they often know their own blocks, as in they think they know their own blocks. And then we pop something like this up on screen and they're like, oh yeah, and that one, and that one, and that one, and that one. So try not to circle every single one and think about it from there. Okay, so Helen, we're going to move forward with what we do with these blocks and how we get them moving.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Just to point out as well with these blocks, you may have been aware of some of them that you have had, but also a common trait of this is that people aren't even aware of the blocks. They don't think they've got any blocks. So when we're looking at financial goals and we're looking at what you want to achieve, but things aren't necessarily happening for you around the financial factors, it's often because there are blocks, but you're not always aware of them. So we actually bring all this to the forefront so that you have that awareness in the first place, because we can't look at your end goal and what you want to achieve if we don't look at where you are right now. It's the same as absolutely everything that we do. We start right at the beginning, your current situation, have all your awareness out on the table around that, and then we work on from there. So we're looking at your blocks, and what we've done is we've categorized them into 5 groups. So the 5 groups that we've got are all basically taking into consideration all of the aspects that Lauren's just covered with you, and you've started jotting down the things that have been blocking you and holding you back from achieving your goals. So we've got the first one, which I'm not sure, is that one, Lauren? Can you just...
No, I think I skipped ahead one. Sorry, my my laptop got excited for us. There we go.
So the first one is budgeting and planning. Okay, the second one is fear and scarcity. The third one is habits, hygiene and priorities. We will go through these. I'm not just skipping through them, I'm just saying them off the top first and foremost. Your fourth one is lack of goals and long-term thinking. And your fifth one is knowledge and expertise. And here's the thing, you're writing a few of them down here. What I want you to do is try and sort of segregate them into the groups and where you've got the most blocks that you're identifying for yourself. And this is the thing, it's not to make you feel bad. It's not to say, you know, I'm really, really bad in this area and I'm really terrible on this, and that you go away from here and you're thinking like, you know, I need to clean my act up, or I need to do this. The thing is, with self-awareness and looking at what your current situation is so that you actually are recognizing your behaviors, your thoughts, your emotions and your traits all around what it is that you're exploring. And in this case, it's your monetary aspect and your financial situation, your financial goals. And then this helps us then identify exactly where you are. You know where you are. And then guess what? Once you know where you are, we know where we can take you. And without that awareness, it's just a case of, right, okay, I keep doing the same old things, or the the mindset and the behaviors and the relationships have been the same for the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Okay, that doesn't mean to say that it has to continue for the next 10 years, 20 years and 30 years of your life. This is the first step that you've made, is being on this webinar, highlighting exactly what it is that you need to work on, highlighting the fact that you do have blocks and it's okay to do that. You know, Warren mentioned that Sam said, do people avoid it? Actually, yeah, I think that they do. And particularly when it comes to business and it comes to, you know, performance, people don't like to admit that they have blockages and things that actually hold them back from a mindset point of view or a management point of view when it comes to their finances. It's as though it's kind of the holy grail of failure, and it's not. But the thing is, financial goals and profit and money and cash and income and cash flow, however you want to label it, is something that is a priority in the economy, either in your business, either in your lifestyle, either in your personal goals and your enjoyment. It is a priority. The last time I looked, we couldn't do anything without money. You know, we're on a free webinar now, okay, but you've needed the cash to buy the laptop that you're on, or the device that you're on. You've needed the money to actually make sure that you've got electricity coming through your home or your office where you're at, and what you're paying for, your overheads, Wi-Fi. You know, we all need money to make the world go round in whatever our map of the world is where we are right now. So there's absolutely no reason why we should be avoiding what's holding us back. What we want to do is give you the toolkit that you're like, right, okay, that's absolutely fine now. I'm okay with having, you know, bad habits or a bad mindset or something from years before. That's happened now, but that's happened then. But what's happening now is that I'm changing that fact. You know, we've talked about the lottery, and my take on that is the fact of all we're doing is hanging our hat on a hope peg. Whereas with this kind of thing, we're actually taking our own personal control. And the mindset is the first element of looking at your financial situation. So take a look at all of these blocks. As I've said, we will be sending a copy of this webinar out, so you can look at the blocks and put your groups together. But definitely start categorizing it and getting familiar with it, and know that it's okay. This ownership, this acceptance, this recognition is the first part of moving forward.
Every time you have a good chat, Helen, my PowerPoint seems to freeze. Let me get it to wake up. There we go.
I'm pretty chilled when it comes to technology.
So here we are. The first thing we want to talk to you about in terms of managing your money is that self-awareness. Helen's just teed me up perfectly here. But the idea is that so many people in business and in life bury their head in the sand. What we want to challenge you here with, or what we want to equip you with, I should say in a more gentle fashion, is first of all, do you know where your head is in the sand? You know, for some of us, we can have the same things that we do repeatedly to avoid the same problem. The things that we hear a lot from our clients that they do with burying their head in the sand is they don't check. They don't check their actual numbers. So that might be not checking your bank accounts. It might be not checking your invoices, what's come in, what's gone out. It might be not checking your cash flow system that you have, either if you have a bookkeeper or an accountant. It might be that you're not opening your mail when it comes in. This is one that we find is really very common. And it's funny, I could see in the chat, we were talking there about the difference in generational things. I can speak from my own personal experience. I don't get a huge amount of actual written post anymore. You know, I don't have my statements coming in on paper. I don't have notifications coming in from, my bank, my mortgage, anything like that. So everything comes in on an email form. But if you again think back to maybe even 5 or 10 years ago, I know I used to get a ton of posts. When I was self-employed and when I knew I had stressful things coming in, one of the things was, right, I've got to open all the bills. I've got to know what cash I need to pay out on. I need to know what invoices need paying. So as I'm saying this, hopefully it might trigger a few things within yourself. Is the first place that we start is by getting our head out of the sand. It's following on perfectly there from what we've just been talking about with the blocks, is that if you know what you're avoiding, there is the first thing that we need to sit with. We need to tackle it, we need to get in on it, and we need to start unpacking it. Because the thing is with our money is that we often think it will get better if we just persist doing the same thing again and again and again. And it's business advice that gets bounded about quite a lot is do what you did, to keep doing what you did to get there. And if we're honest, it's sometimes very poor advice, because what's got you here might not necessarily get you to the next point. So for example, if you've managed to get a certain level of investment in your business, maybe if you're employed, maybe you've had a certain amount of savings that you've saved to buy your first property, or to pay off student loan, or to acquire something that you've saved for. What you did to get there might not necessarily be the exact thing that you have to replicate to get you to the next point. So with this in mind, the self-awareness part of your money management is absolutely key. What we're going to come on to now is in terms of, your habits, your hygiene, the things that we're doing. But understand that if you have your head in the sand, as this little fella in the picture is showing, there's only so much time you can breathe. There's only so much you can get away with. There's only so much you can actually, fight your way through with your money and your mindset by putting your head in the sand. The one thing that we find with most of our clients is as soon as we take their head out of the sand, as soon as we take it out of that hiding, that head under the duvet feeling that I don't want to open the banking app, I don't want to open the mail, I don't want to have the meeting with my accountant, I don't want to have the meeting with my boss about my salary review, about bonuses, about anything like that. The immediate reaction, the immediate emotion that floods through everyone is relief, because it takes so much energy to hide from your money. It takes so much energy to hide from your blockages that when we take ourselves out of it, get it all down, lay it all on the table, get the numbers down, whether it be on a piece of paper, on a spreadsheet, have those immediate conversations. The emotions that come up is, do you know what a relief it is to take your head out of the sand. So the first thing there is understanding, where is it that you're blocked? Where is it that you're avoiding? And that's the place to start.
Self-worth then. We've probably heard of that term before, but how do we actually then define it? How do we quantify it? What is self-worth? And the easiest way to look at it is ask yourself how much you value yourself. Okay, it's all around value. And that's not to put a pound sign on your head and give yourself an actual figure, but look at how much you value yourself. And this goes in two ways here, and obviously this is kind of two-pronged on everything that we attach and deliver on. But it is first and foremost looking at you as the individual, because if there's not enough self-worth around you, your habits aren't in the positive format, you're being influenced in a wrong way that's taking you off course, that is all going to affect you in business. And ultimately, we want to get the two parties of your, and the two aspects of your goals, personal and business, or employed role, in sync with one another. But it has to start with how you value yourself. So this is a funny one, because people don't always understand how to do this, or don't understand how their habits and their influence actually affects their worth and their value. And the easiest thing is for me to do to help you understand it a little bit better and help you consider where this can resonate or relate with you is to give you a couple of examples. So, ask yourself about your confidence and ask yourself about your self-esteem. Is that basically looked upon to be like held up by a crutch, which is money? Do you go out and do you treat yourself to things to make you feel better? Do you do a good day's work or a good week at work and then say, I deserve this treat and I'm going to go and buy myself X, Y, or Z? Do you look at mindless spending to fill the gap in terms of what's missing? Do you need to be that sort of person that has the latest model of everything, whether it be a car, whether it be a device, an iPhone, a watch, or whatever it is that's a materialistic product? Do you need that again to fill that gap? And when I'm saying that gap, that's because something's missing for you in terms of fulfillment and value that you're taking from yourself. Okay, and then the other aspect of this is the fact of self-worth and value for you as a business owner, for example, for the business owners that are on here. If then you have got negative habits, negative influence. You know, you consider your worth as quite low. You're running the risk, of being quite conservative when it comes to your pricing and your own pricing structure in business. Not being aware of how much you should charge, how much you should be positioning yourself, even if it's what Lauren's just said about, you know, can you go for that pay rise at work? Can you ask for more? Are you worth more? Consider that fact. It's your value. What are you bringing to the table that is of value? And with everything of value, there's a transaction. So there's two ways of looking at this, okay? So it's you first in terms of your spending, your habits, your influence, okay? Your mindless spending, the habits that you do that you're not necessarily aware of, you know, the things that you're just kind of cashing up and you know, it's just coming out of your account just because, you know, transactions are happening left, right, and centre because you deserve to have something, or that's your reward, okay? Or the fact of how do we quantify what you are worth in your employed or business role? Okay, so on one of the aspects there about when we said about, you know, the groups that you're putting yourself in and the categories, are you unable to say no? Somebody said here on the chat, I saw this come up in terms of saying unable to say no to social events. How much are you doing this that's overcompensating for what you're actually worth? And when it comes to that, if it's social events, who's your circle of influence that's got that sort of hold over you and is influencing your decision and your habits around spending money? We always talk about the circle of influence. I think Lauren's just recorded a podcast on this that's out tomorrow morning on the circle of influence. Who are you around that's actually educating you and bringing you up to what you want to do in terms of achieving your financial goals? If it's not anybody that is in a position that you want to be in, and it's of the groups that, you know, is mindless spending, going out for treats, beers on a Friday night, looking at kind of you know, the good time Charlie kind of element of it. We spoke about this before in terms of the groups that you keep and the company that you keep, the environment that you're in has so much effect and influence over your worth and your spending. Okay, so be very, very aware of this. This is a huge slide for you to take that self-audit and that self-critique over what it is, where your value is, and what is in your control when it comes to your habits and your influence, because ultimately, whatever you do on a personal element is going to reflect and transfer into your business value as well.
Now the slides won't move. When they did move, hold on.
Beaver, Lauren.
Tell you what, there we go. This Zoom, I was just about to sound like a right nana there. This Zoom crack. Sometimes it's with us, sometimes it's not. Okay, so next one here is self-belief. And this one, I think gets floated as something that's a nice to have. Like, oh, it'd be nice to have self-belief. It'd be lovely to have self-belief. It'd be like a cherry on the top kind of thing. Where the key is when it comes to your money and your mindset around money, the beliefs that we have. I'm not talking about having confidence in yourself. I'm not talking about, you know, how self-assured you feel, how, you know, how good you feel in your skin and your actions and your tone of voice and your inclination, anything like that. When we talk about your self-belief with money, we really want you to start thinking about the stories that you tell yourself around money and the belief systems that you hold around money. Here's a danger point here. You know, if we could put a big red flag up of, like, you know, like if you're on a beach and they put the flag up to tell you that there's high winds and please be careful in the sea. This is me putting up the high winds flag. What I'm about to say might sound like a passing of the buck. And it might sound like we're about to just shift responsibility onto someone else. This is not the case at all. So it's just my warning flag on that. A lot of the stories we tell ourselves and the beliefs that we have around money, how money should be made, how money should be spent, how money should be transacted with, comes from our childhood, okay? If you've ever done this a task as reflection, this won't be a big shock to you. But if you've not, it's something that I honestly, it's a great one to do, even like in a social setting. The crack I've had before, I've sat around a coffee and breakfast with my friends having this. What was the stuff you used to hear your parents say about money? You know, I bet we all have ones that are similar, and you know, there's a couple of common threads. I grew up in Manchester. I've got two Irish parents. They came over to the UK in the 70s, both very young, you know, high school education, and they worked really, really hard for everything that they built for themselves and for our family. So things that I heard being said a lot growing up was, money doesn't grow on trees. What do you think I am? Made of money. And all these little sayings that I reckon, like I say, this is when you have these conversations, whether it be with your friendship groups, your partner, your business colleagues, whoever it may be, we all have certain little stories and beliefs that we heard being said a lot growing up. It's been interesting when me and Helen have done this exercise together, how many we share, but then how many different ones that we have come up because of different influences in our family lives and our upbringing. This is also impacted, as Helen was just saying there, in terms of influence, by your friendship group, by your colleagues. You know, I remember, you know, one of these, it was such a big turning point. I remember my now husband, we went on holiday for the first time together, and at the time I traveled loads for business, so I was in and out of hotels all the time. So when we went into our hotel, I thought nothing of opening the fridge door and grabbing out a bottle of water. Now at the time, I just thought nothing of it. I opened a bottle of water and I drank out of it. Well, the face on him, he almost hit the deck. And I looked at him and I'm like, what's up with you? And he said, isn't it like £3 for a bottle of water out of a minibar, or €3? And I was like, yeah, didn't think anything of it, because at the time I lived in hotels with my career and my traveling. And to be honest, my expense account picked up all my €3 bottles of waters out of the fridge. But his belief system and the story he had around the £3 or €3 bottle of water was, that's absolute madness and crazy extravagance. So there's an example that I think everybody at some point can relate to, where you believe it's a good thing to spend money on, but someone else doesn't. You might believe it's good to invest in a business. You might believe it's good to invest in marketing, in technology, in IT, in all of, you know, whatever your business sort of investment requires. But someone else right next to you might have a completely different story and a completely different belief system. The key here is when you are looking at how you want to manage your finances, what the future is that you want to build, the relationship that you want to have with money, is you have to understand, what stories am I telling myself? Am I telling myself lots of self-limiting beliefs around money? I can only earn X amount. I can only charge X amount. Nobody's going to pay for more than this. And in some cases, those stories might be true, but in lots of cases, they are wildly untrue, and they are based on outdated beliefs, outdated examples, outdated evidence, and they're not looking at it in a true form. So to give you an example here, obviously we're coming out of lockdown, as in the UK, there's lots and lots of talk about the economy, and rightly so. Lots of people are having to shrink the way that they do business. There's different decisions being made by the government, by leaders in our businesses, in our local councils, and everything in between. But if you listen to some people, the story that they would have you believe is nobody's spending any money, nobody's leaving the house anymore, no properties are being sold, etc., etc., etc. We all know the doom and gloom of where the BBC, Sky News, the Daily Mail would like to have us think. Versus looking at the story that we have ourselves, that when every economy shrinks, there is always opportunity. People prioritize where they spend their money. They want to prioritize the things that are really important to them. They want to make sure that they grow their businesses or grow their family or grow their wealth in a certain way that protects it. And again, the thing with the economy, people talking about house prices, and the housing market plummeted over the last 7 days since the change in the stamp duty. The inquiries and the hits on Rightmove and estate agents and offers coming in on houses through the bloody roof. But if you listen to some stories and some people's belief systems, we may never leave the house again, and we may as well shut shop, and we may never do any business or transact ever again. So this is just a prime example of, if you listen to the stories that other people are giving us, or potentially that we've grown up with, our belief systems, the key here is to recognize your own and then ask yourself some really honest questions. Are these stories and these beliefs I have around money true? And after asking yourself for the true, are they helpful? Are they helping you get to where you want to go? One of the things, my example there was the £3 bottle of water out of a minibar. And the actual truth is, no, you're right, I probably don't need to spend £9 a day on bottled water when I'm in a fancy hotel. So that doesn't serve my goal of wanting to have more money left in my travel pot, or to do nicer things with my expenses, or with my, disposable income pot. So I've got to ask myself, even though that belief system and that story fitted me at one point in life, it doesn't fit the goal now, and it doesn't fit life today. So understanding when we talk about self-belief with money, it's not a nice to have. We all have beliefs around money. We often just don't acknowledge them, we don't investigate them, and we don't check that they're serving us as we are today. Beliefs can be changed. Ask yourself, is there anything today that you no longer believe that you used to believe? The obvious one is Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. It used to really serve us to believe in Santa, okay? But we changed our belief around that. You know, again, I used to believe that having, you know, a certain car or a certain handbag or a certain designer coat, you know, helped me to look successful in business. I've completely changed my belief in that. I couldn't give a shit about the design on my handbag or on that. I still like nice things, but I don't believe that's going to change my relationship with money and going to change my impact in business. So ask yourself, what beliefs and stories do you have that you've changed your mind on, and see how much more that could open up. Okay.
Okay, so money management then. The reason why we've put this slide in here is because the mindset around money, and look, she's skipping ahead. She's rushing me all over this morning, isn't
Every time I try and read the chat, I change the screen. Sorry, Kate.
Good job I don't get easily distracted, or do I?
Yeah.
Anyway, I shall start again. The reason why we've put money management on here is because understanding your mindset around money and your relationship around money is just, this is literally just scratching the surface. It's just an introduction webinar for you to start considering things. Money management is actually then the next step along. We start with your mindset. We start having a look at kind of what we've just said about the awareness, where we are right now. Then the management comes into the fact of, this is what we need to have control over of the money that we have right now, or as it says on the screen there, the debt that we have right now. Okay, that's still within our finances, and that's still within our wealth column. So, you know, we don't sort of overcast things and, you know, don't talk about things and avoid them. It is what it is. Everything around your finances will have something that's related to debt, probably within that, whether it's good debt or it's bad debt, and we'll look at that as well with you. But it's in 3 steps. It's your mindset first, your management over what you've got, and then we go on to making you more money and looking at monetization. And that's where we then transfer all of the skills and the mindset and the positive aspects and the habits that influences in a positive framework into your business and your lifestyle as it stands. Okay, so it's mindset, management, monetization. Okay, but what I want you to consider here, so that you've got something apart from looking at your mindset as it is now and your childhood stories, and you know, it's starting sort of resonating and relating over what your blockages are. I want you to start thinking about what you want to achieve in terms of your current financial situation and your management over where you are right now. So goals, budget and debt are all combined nicely together. I want you to consider a goal for the next 30 days that's something that's manageable, it's digestible, and it's measurable. Something that you want to achieve in your life that will make a difference to your finances. It could be that you save a certain amount of money. It could be that you look at your habits and stop your mindless spending. It could be that you start looking at scheduling a budget for yourself and getting that in and planned and diarised and as a priority. Because it's taking these steps then that's going to help sort of knit the mindset work together along with the action taken that's actually going to get you into a positive realm of momentum. Okay, I've mentioned the debt there. Okay, structure it. If it's something that you want to start paying your debt off, start structuring this. Have this as part of your goal, and you know, don't sort of continue with the habits of the avoidance. Okay, start looking at what has been holding you back. So this is what I want you to consider for this slide here: is your goals, your budget, your debt. What can you work on in those areas for the next 30 days that's going to make a positive impact and have a positive influence around your mindset and your management of money? Because until we start taking the action, it's all nice to have these conversations and say, oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, I'm in that group or whatever. that's great, and we can talk about that till the cows come home. But as you know, we're always based on taking action, and there's got to be some tangible action behind that mindset as well. The mindset stuff is the internal stuff that you can't see, that you can't actually get a grasp on. So it's hard to measure. But when it comes to your finances, the easiest thing to do is have a look at it, measure it. And once you've got that, you know straight away in black and white in front of you, or red. Let's have a look at kind of how it looks on the account statements. But you can see in actual terms of, you know, where you are. Where are you right now, and what can you do to start making the small shifts, particularly in a small bite-sized goal that you can set yourself within the next 30 days. So that's what I want you to do, guys. It's something that, you know, is easy for you to do. It can be quite overwhelming looking at you know, your finances as a whole, your goals, what you want to achieve long term. Notice I've only said focus on the next 30 days. None of the management ideals that we look at, particularly when we start looking at introductions of your mindset and your current relationship, do we start looking at your business projections and your 5-year plans and all of that? Because that is like saying that you're going to go and own a £90 million yacht off the Isle of Sicily or whatever. You know, it's unrealistic. It's overwhelming. We like to start off with something that is tangible to you and can make that difference, because it's that first leap of acceptance, that recognition, that ownership, along with something that's a manageable goal that will get you into a positive frame of mind, and start looking at your habitual aspects that you can then, you know, take from and extract from, that, you know, you gain the confidence in yourself to make those changes. Because let's face it, you know, if we have got that many blockages around us in different areas of the 5 groups, whether it's fear, it's scarcity, we're hanging around with the wrong people, we can't change everything in overnight. You know, Rome weren't built in a day, and neither is your financial goals going to be hit overnight either. You know, we're good, but we're not that good. But yeah, it's you know, it's something for you to take away and actually start getting to work on, and hopefully then with particularly for those of you that have followed us through the pillars, you can now start to see how nicely they interweave with one another, and start transferring through the approach, through the mindset, through the skill set, into then that application and what that actually means for what you want to achieve long term.
Super. Okay, so what do you do next? Helen's just given a really good allusion to that. Is you've actually got to start, okay? When it comes to your mindset around money, it's often something that we just put off, and you just go, I'll do that another week. I'll do that another month. Sometimes it's I'll do that another bloody year. And the thing that we really want to impress on anyone today, whatever that goal is that's come to mind, whether it's a case of, right, I need to start tracking my money, I need to start actually setting a budget, I need to start opening those emails or those, you know, those written bits of posts that I'm getting that I'm not, you know, facing head on, whatever it may be, just take some small action straight away, get started. The next thing we've put down here is post and tag us. Okay, we are massive advocates of this, because there's nothing like saying the goal out loud. There is literally nothing better than making yourself accountable to someone outside of yourself. It's one of the things that we find has the biggest impact with the clients that we're working with. And Helen just said it there, you know, we can't spray, you know, fairy dust on it. We can't sprinkle magic on it. We can't solve all of these problems overnight. But just taking that first step, acknowledging where you're at, knowing what the goal is, but then telling someone else the goal and what it is absolutely massive. And the reason it's massive is because it's dead easy to kid yourself. It's dead easy to let yourself down. It's really hard to let someone as a third party down in that conversation. So however you do it, whether you want to send us a DM, whether you want to put it up on your social media, your LinkedIn, whatever it may be, my goal is to do this, to increase my profit, tighten up the nuts and bolts on my ship by X amount. And again, it also means that we can, I'm saying we here because we hope that we're going to be a source of clarity and some answers for you here. But the thing is sometimes we can set the wrong goal. Sometimes it can be a case of, it's almost a little bit like, you know, when you start a healthy eating regime, or you're like, you know, if you've got a really bad hangover, I'm never drinking ever again, I'm never eating chocolate ever again. It can get a bit dramatic, and you're just setting yourself up for failure. So how, as Helen just perfectly said there, it's about starting, it's about taking action, and it really is about getting the right goal set so you can start the ball and start the momentum rolling. And if you do need more help, this is exactly what we do. This is exactly what we're here for. The idea that we said at the beginning was, if we make more money, it would solve the problem. And sorry to burst that little pinprick of a dream balloon, and reality come crashing down, is more money, more problems. What's that song, Helen? We were always joking about it when we did our workshop. We were like, you know, we had it blasted out at the back. But adding another zero on the end of anything doesn't change the mindset. It doesn't change the habits. It doesn't change the blocks. All it does is it puts more into the plumbing system, if we're using this pipe analogy and running with it, okay? It just means there's more water gushing through. It means there's more chance that when the leak actually explodes, it's going to be an absolute shit show, because there's so much water going through it. Instead of it being a little trickle of a leak through that colander, now it's going to be an absolute explosion. You're going to need, you know, you're going to need a complete refurb when that leak comes through. So if this is something that you, as you're listening to us and you're hearing us speak, you know, there could be a couple of emotions coming up here. You could be getting excited. We hope there's a little bit of excitement. That you've taken off some of the blinkers and we're having the right conversations. The other thing that makes people excited is knowing when they see those blocks, they're like, oh, it's not just me. It's not just me who has that blockage, who has that problem, who has that, you know, that thing that they struggle with and have a hurdle to get over. And the other thing the excitement comes from is the fact that there is a better way. There is solutions and there are people to help. The other feeling that a lot of people might get at this point is just a bit of overwhelm, and they go, I just want to get back under the duvet in terms of, you know, anything to do with my finance and my mindset around it. I'm not ready to look at it. And if that is the case, more than ever, reach out, let us know. This is exactly what we do and what we help with, literally on a daily basis. Hopefully you can tell from me and Helen, we actually get super excited when we start talking about money. We actually get like, it's when we were planning for this webinar, and we've been having this conversation the last 6-8 weeks during lockdown, as people have been in a lot of fear, a lot of scarcity. A lot of people have had to change the way they're doing business. So we can understand why this became a massive conversation over the last couple of months. But it's got us more excited than ever, because here's the thing. Sometimes when you're forced to deal with something, when you're forced to look at the problem head on, that's exactly when it's the right time to tackle it. We use this sliding scale a lot when people, you know, again, if you've been with us the last few weeks, we use the scale in mindset, in excellence, in health. If you were to rate yourself between 1 and 10 at the moment, your relationship with money, your control of money, your attraction of money, your ability to stay calm and cool-headed around money, if you were to put that into a graph and mark yourself out at 10, where would you be? For some people, they're like down there at number 1, 2, and 3, and they're like, shit's hitting the fan time. If I don't get this in order, there's going to be really big problems. There's going to be really big repercussions. Then there's some people who are like, I'm an 8, 9, 10. I'm nailing it. Not only do I know what I'm doing with it, I'm managing it. I'm confident. I'm growing it. I'm on the right track. Then there's a lot of people who are somewhere between 5, 6, and 7 on the scale. And this is the thing, that is the most dangerous and scary place to be. The reason being is because you're not in that much pain, but you're also not in that much joy. You're at the point where it's okay. The bills are getting paid. The tax bill's getting covered. The mortgage is getting paid. I'm getting out a little bit here and there. I've got a bit of money for, you know, disposable income, you know, for nice things, for fun things, for holiday. But you're not where you want to be. You're not at the point where you're going to be mortgage free. You're not going to be at the point where you're debt free. You're not going to be at the point where you've got money to invest. You're not going to be at the point where your business can expand. You're not at the point where if something terrible happens, i.e. a global pandemic, there's a savings pot that mean that you don't have to absolutely shit yourself and close every door in every part of your business. So if you're at that point where you're 5, 6, 7 on the scale and you're like, I'm doing okay, that's where we're like, come talk to us, come take action. Because at the moment, you might be all right with the amount of waves that are coming into the ocean. But a big storm comes or something that happens. Again, I can't tell you how many times we say to people, if you had to close your business today, if you lost your job today, how many weeks or months could you survive for? And I'm not just talking about survive as in keep the roof over your head, keep the food on the table, but how long could you actually survive with the lifestyle that you've got today? So I don't want to leave it on a negative, and I don't want to put the heebie-jeebies up anyone here, but this is the reality of us running businesses, running departments, and being grown-ups, is the fact that if you're here today running a business and you're here today, you're someone who wants more. You're learning, you're striving, you're growing, you know, you're a wanter in life. Doesn't matter what your title is, business owner, business leader, doesn't matter to me. If you're here today and you're in that right mindset, you don't want to just get by. So that's when I said to you before about maybe doing what you did to get here was good, but will doing that exact same thing get to where you really want to be in 6, 12, 18 months time? We all work really hard in our day-to-day roles, in our day-to-day lives. We didn't do it just to get by, just to pay the bills, just to pay the tax, just to survive. There's so much more to be done. And when people say money doesn't make you happy, that's a really personal choice. I honestly believe that. I'm not someone who's going to say money makes you happy, but having none of it, having no control of it, having a lot of stress around it, well, that's the stuff that really does make you unhappy. So it's about understanding and making that choice. So start today, take that first step, set the 30-day goal. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd really love to be part of it with you. Slide actually worked.
Boom. Thank you very much, everyone. We are sticking around for questions as well, if you've got any questions.
I think we've got 5. Yeah, we've got about 5-10 minutes. If anyone has got anything or any questions they want to open up, feel free to unmute.
I'm probably the same as most people, but whenever I get to a point where I think, right, I can start saving now, there's always something else that needs buying. Yeah. Always something. Always. If you know, probably more so if you're a homeowner, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Natalie, I thought your comment in the chat was really interesting. You said you didn't chat about money that much. You don't remember conversations around it when you were.
Yeah, well, obviously while you were talking, I was just trying to think, well, what can I remember? And I just thought, actually, I don't remember anything.
And do you, if you don't mind me asking, feel free to dodge this bullet. Do you feel okay talking about money now as an adult?
I'm one of the open. Sometimes I think, shit, I don't have to be this open, but
yeah,
hey ho, got to be open and honest, I think, anyway. But yeah, it was a lucky childhood. I would say just because of my dad's role, he had a very good job. Lost my dad. I'm 34 now. Lost my dad at 20, and I've started working at 16, like a lot of people do. But life changed quite a lot when Dad went. So you know, it makes you think how hard you've got to work to have the things that I was brought up having. So
Natalie, it's thank you for sharing it for a start. I know, like I say, it's money is a personal thing. It really is for everybody. And I think as we get older, like if you'd said to me, you know, I was running a business at 21, 22 and making so much money that I didn't know what to do with it, like not like an insane amount, but I could have just we used to joke that like you could have been Lindsay Lohan because you were just like, you know, it could have been Gregory Central, you know, just running around having a great time. My father's in financial services and he grabbed me at like 23, I think, and I bought my first property, and then at 25 I bought another one. And I was so glad I had someone with influence around me who made me do that. But the other thing could have been I could have wasted 50, 100 grand like that, easily done. And what would I have had to show for it? Now, good news is late 20s, early 30s, bit more of a Lohan stage. And so I got to learn the other side of the coin. But we all get to learn our own money mistakes as we do them. I think the key is you've just said there, Natalie, you learned loads from watching your parents and from the work ethic and, you know, like say the opportunity that brought you, then going into your adult life, how that impacts and reflects. But I think sometimes whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, we all have a chance to correct and improve and do what we want to with our mindset and relationship with money. So often it's just like I say, blinkers on, head under the covers, I'll do what I've always done. And it's just an easy one to see how people get into they wonder why they end up at a position that they didn't want to be in, but they never set a goal and they never made an anchor towards it. And that's how we end up drifting in the middle of the ocean money-wise.
Natalie, I just wanted to pick up on what you said there as well about there's always something to buy, or, you know, there's always an outgoing. This obviously, I don't know what your current structure is. for your finances or your budgeting or anything like that, but that's where, you know, the management element of it, what we were talking about, is going to be crucial there. And particularly, you know, if there is something larger for properties and things like that, I do have a property business, so we work with like financial splits and income splits to manage all of the, you know, the ongoing expenses and the contingencies and things like that, and literally have all of the income coming in and going out into like 5 or 6 different pots, so that throughout then the month, the year, and the ongoing growth and management of the portfolio, everything is always catered for. There's no surprises. So yeah, in terms of where you are with that, and there's always expenses. I've just had it this month. You know, it's been about 3 or 4 different people's birthdays within my family in July, and you can always guarantee that, you know, people, things like that are always going to all come at in one go. Never rains it pours kind of thing. Or, you know, you've got outgoings and then your washing machine breaks or something. You know, you've always got these to counter for. And yeah, while that's not going to then sort of build up in sort of capital pots or contingency pots up front, it's something that we can start accommodating for at some point, and you'll be amazed how much then that can grow. It's a cumulative saving. And obviously the compound effect, which we manage, which we cover, in the management aspect of all of the money stuff. So yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? Has anybody got any other questions or want to cover anything or comment over anything that we've covered this morning? Anything that it's raised for anyone? If it is too personal, which understandably it can be. You know, we are, you know, we can take things offline as well if you want to cover anything off. But, you know, take it away as, you know, the first sort of exposure to it, I guess, and, you know, the willingness that you've been able to take those blinkers off, and that you're putting the lights on. You know, it's not, like we said at the beginning, it's not to embarrass anyone, it's not to make anybody feel bad, but unfortunately we do have to look at the stuff that is the sticky, uncomfortable stuff before we can go forward. And sometimes I feel like we have a rough deal with that, because people think that we're like, you know, like massive motivators, and you know, we're just a happy clappy, let's go and let's take action and everything's going to be great in all areas of your life. But unfortunately we all have stuff to deal with. But what I always believe is that there's a solution to everything, but it's just working through that solution and making sure, you know, that individuals are prepared, they're committed, and they're willing to work through it. So if you've got anything like that, just come to us. You know where we are.
Thanks, Helen. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you.
Really appreciate the time and content that you've delivered for us over the last few weeks. Just a reminder for everybody that they are on YouTube, the previous pillars, the previous sessions that Helen and Lauren have delivered, and this one will be on tomorrow. Helen, Lauren, will you be sending a follow-up, sharing any information with the guys, or?
We can do, yeah, because we'll just do a recap over what we've said about what to visit and what to consider for the next 30 days if people do want to take something forward and challenge themselves.
Well, and I just encourage you to engage with the guys via LinkedIn or email. So yeah, thanks again, Helen and Lauren, and thanks for joining us this morning, everybody. Nice to see you all.
Lovely to see you, Sheffield.
Cool, thank you,
See you
guys.
later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.